Hello, everyone. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm in Connecticut. I've been involved with quality for over 40 plus years. I've owned my business going on 14 years as of August of this year. And this video today is very important. I'm sorry I'm not talking from my head. I had to bring this down onto paper to tell you about it because it's very important. The title is Democrats Panic as GOP Uncovers Biden-China Corruption. QA expert Daryl Guberman calls for true government efficiency and accountability. Please sit down for this because it's very important. I most recently put down a press release. You can get that from me. You can call me at 203-556-1493. Ask me to text it to you. You can say Daryl, you can look me up, Daryl Guberman, DAROL Guberman, Democracy in Decline. It may come up with that, but let me get back to this. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a critical moment in American history, a moment where the truth is no longer just buried beneath bureaucratic red tape, but actively suppressed by those who claim to represent the best interests of the people. The recent revelations surrounding Joe Biden, his family's deep financial entanglements with China and Ukraine, and the clear evidence of corruption should send shockwaves through every level of government. Instead, we are met with silence, evasion, and an establishment desperate to protect themselves at all costs, like we already saw with Daryl Charlie Schumer in New York and the rest of these people. For over 40 years, I have been involved with quality. For the last 13 years, since opening up my business, I have been exposing the degradation of democracy and the rampant conflicts of interest within both the private sector and government institutions. My most recent press release, which I just told you about, highlights the failures of Connecticut political leadership but the mathematical reality is that these failures extend beyond state borders and infect every level of our political system. The Department of Government Efficiencies, an initiative spearheaded by Elon Musk, barely, and I mean barely, scratches the surface of what needs to be done to address the systematic corruption plaguing our nation. If they truly want to uncover inefficiencies and corruptions, they should be speaking with me. I have been warning about the cozy relationships between American defense contractors and the Chinese Communist Party for over a decade. In 2017, I wrote directly to the Antitrust Committee about Lockheed Martin's troubling connections, where Richard Blumenthal was a member then too. When I stood up in April of 2024 at the Senate subcommittee, which we'll be getting to it, Richard Blumenthal is the chairman of that. The Department of Homeland Security is not just Homeland Security. They're not just a board member of ANSI-ANA, but they're also a paying customer. But this, so I wrote the Antitrust Committee about Lockheed Martin troubling connections with China, an issue that even more apparent today. But this goes back further. In 2009, Lockheed Martin had sensitive F-35 data stolen by China. In 2012, a division of United Technologies, Sikorsky Aircraft, had data stolen as well. And by 2015, Communist China had become an international regulator, a position that allowed it to approve Lockheed Martin's purchase of Sikorsky aircraft. Let that sink in. In 2015, the Communist China had become an international regulator, a position that allowed it to approve Lockheed Martin's purchase of Sikorsky aircraft. Let that sink in. Our so-called national security leaders had to get the blessing of a foreign adversary to complete a business transaction? And who stood up by and applauded? Three key political figures from Connecticut: Senator Richard Blumenthal, Senator Chris Murphy, and Representative Rosa DeLauro, all of whom praised Lockheed Martin while conveniently ignoring its entanglements with Communist China. These aren't isolated incidents. These aren't one-off mistakes. This is a systematic failure of leadership, a failure of accountability, and a failure of American people to demand better from those in power. The real question we must ask ourselves is, why do these politicians stay in office for decades, growing more powerful and untouchable with each election cycle? Why do they remain silent when faced with clear evidence of corruption? The simple answer is this: they do not serve you, ladies and gentlemen, the American people. They serve themselves, their donors, and the international corporations that bankroll their campaigns. Elon Musk's initiative to improve government efficiency is a step in the right direction, but I say to Mr. Musk and anyone else serious about cleaning house, if you want the unfiltered truth, if you want real solutions, then you need to speak to people like me. You need me, Daryl Guberman, on your side, because we've got a lot of information. Those of us who've been fighting this battle, I have been exposing these issues since 2013, and I will not stop now. The corruption is deep, but it is not indestructible. With the right leadership, the right voices, and the will of the American people, we can restore accountability, transparency, and integrity to our government. The evidence is there. The warnings have been given. The time for action is now. And what I'm going to do is this. There are 7 representatives in Connecticut that will go to Washington. There are over 3.6 million people in Connecticut, which means each representative has to handle about 500,000 constituents. That's why you get frustrated when you write them and you hear nothing. I heard a talk show on WICC, a local radio station, where a lady said, I wrote this so-and-so representative. I haven't heard from them in 6 months. So I'm going to finish this with a poem from Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeons of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged the punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. And the last one, which if you want to know who I am, because usually when you're speaking the truth, as Thomas Paine would say, when speaking the truth, it's many times like administering medication to the dead. Well, here is me. I love the man who can smile in trouble, who can gather strength from distress and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of a little minds to shrink. And he whose heart is firm and conscience approves his conduct shall pursue his principles unto death. Thomas Paine. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this time. If you want that democracy in decline, please write me at 203-556-1493. And Richard, Blumenthal, Lorenzo, and Beatrix. This one's for all of you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's time. I thank you.